Good morning YouTube, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I wanted to talk to you about sowing Cephalotus seeds and getting them to grow from seeds. So a lot of you have been asking me lately how I get these guys to germinate, so I just wanted to go through it again. I did do a video in detail on how you sterilize the media, so if you want to see how to sterilize Cephalotus media, make sure you check out that video. Just like search my channel for Cephalotus or whatever, and all my Cephalotus videos will come up. But today I just wanted to go through it without actually showing you how to sow the seed. I just wanted to talk about it and give you guys a general idea of how to sow them. So to start with, we'll look down here. I just placed a couple Cephalotus seeds onto the soil. These guys were just from the plants above me. I'm just sort of finishing up with my collecting of my seeds for the year. But that's the way they look. They're kind of fuzzy like that. Now I leave them like this. I do not try to get all the fuzz off. I do not try to remove the endosperm and the everything from inside that capsule. I leave it just like it is. So with that being said, most of these plants here I grew from seed from a friend in Australia. So there's all kinds of site and data locations. There are a couple typicals mixed in. In the foreground there are some fresher divisions that are just sort of starting to bounce back, so they look a little bit weaker, because you can see the difference. Like these pots are full of moss and these ones are nice and fresh, but it gives you a good chance to look at the media. So we'll look at the media in a minute too. But I grew all of these from seed. I can't even guarantee it was fresh seed. I grew them from seed, germinated them, grew them up, and got them all to blooming size, and then I bloomed them myself. So last year they started blooming, and I wanted to make sure the seed was fertile. So I did some tests on it, and I did get some seeds here in the front. Now in order to get the seeds, I like these containers here, these round deli containers, because they are microwavable. I took my media that I mixed up, and before I sowed the seeds, I stuck these in the microwave and heated them up to like 170 degrees Celsius. Sterilized everything. I used a meat thermometer in the dirt to see how hot it was. And so I sterilized the media because it is a long road, so we might as well start with the sterilized media as opposed to having stuff growing right off the bat. Now I've changed my media a bit this year. It's all fairly rocky. It's a peat base with, I have some turfus and some perlite and sand in there. In previous videos I had like aquarium gravel and stuff like that. But anything will work that's really well draining. I don't grow them in sphagnum moss. I just don't like it. I think it's too wet for them. But I do put a layer of peat moss, just a fine layer of peat moss over the when I'm sowing to get better contact with the seeds. This is kind of rough, so your seed could end up like laying on a piece of perlite, which I wouldn't want. So I make sure I put just a skim of peat over the top of my mix afterwards, so the roots penetrate down and end up growing in this kind of media anyways. But yeah, so let's look at last year's seedlings again. One of the biggest questions I get is, do I stratify the seeds or not? Well, these are typical Cephalotus seeds that I sowed about this time last year. And then this one here I put into stratification for 2 months. It sat in my fridge, just like this with the lid on it. Just one little air hole in the lid for a little bit of breathing room. And it just stayed in my crisper for 2 months. This one, on the other hand, I did not stratify. I put about the same amount of seeds in there. I can't exactly remember what that was, but I divided them up about equally because I wanted to test it. And the ones that did not get stratification did germinate, but I don't think they germinated quite as thick. There wasn't as many that germinated without the stratification. So it looks like both methods work, but stratifying does work a little bit better. As for time frame, I think these guys that didn't stratify sat and sat and sat and sat. The ones that did have stratification, after the 2 month, it was about another month before I started seeing germination on this pot, and these ones still hadn't done any germination yet, so it actually took longer to germinate them without stratification as well, and I got less germination when they did start. So yeah, there's a little bit of interesting news on stratification for them. So once you sterilize the media in the microwave, make sure you let it cool down first, of course. Then I sow my Cephalotus seeds, which I showed you right here. There's a couple. I sow my Cephalotus seeds right on top of the media, and then I give it a good misting down with water. and make sure they have very good contact. The way these two are sitting right now, because I just threw them on there, is not good contact. They need to be in better contact with the media. I always use tweezers to handle these guys. I never like to touch them with my hands. My hands are dirty. I sterilize the tweezers and then I can sew them exactly as I need them, right, just like that. So you want to try to keep them as sterile as possible anyways. When I harvest them, I try not to touch them. I grab the whole flower pod and pull it off as a flower pod and put it in my little container, and the seeds never get really touched by my fingers at all. So try not to touch the seeds. Sew them on cool media after you've sterilized it. I recommend sticking them in the fridge for a few months, just in the crisper. Make sure they don't freeze or they are going to die. Keep them at 3 or 4 Celsius if you can. That seems like a safe number. So then they start to germinate a few months later after you pull them out of stratification. So it's now been 4 months plus since you actually sowed them. And this is what they look like. These guys germinated in the winter time, right? I sowed them in the fall, stratified them. They germinated about December, and this is what they look like now. So they're not huge, but from this point they do grow pretty fast. So let's see if I can't think of anything else that I can. I'm sure there'll be questions that come up, but that's basically how I do it. Yeah, it's really not that hard at all. This one here, these are my Northcliffe seedlings that I germinated last year. Like I say, I didn't get rid of any seed last year. I wanted to make sure it was, in fact, not sterile seed. So I germinated my seeds from last year. I didn't have nearly as many kinds. My Northcliffe was the first ones to put up a spike, and they sent up 1 spike. And so that's the seeds I got out of it. And I don't know, there's probably still 30 or 50 plants there. But anyways, yeah, they're doing quite well. And it'll be a little while before they're this big over here. But you know, once you get them past that stage that I just showed you, they grow pretty fast. It's not too hard at all to get them growing. It just takes a little bit of time. So these guys are on the south wall right now. They get tons of heat. This wall here has had a maximum temperature of over 35 Celsius, nearly 100 Fahrenheit. And they're getting lows right now. The lowest they've been is, looks like 18 Celsius or 65 Fahrenheit-ish. But that would be the two extremes, of course. And if they were 65, it wouldn't have been for too long. This is the warm side of the greenhouse. And then I do move them for the wintertime, and they go to the cool side of the greenhouse. And they get lows down into the low 50s, or that's like 10, 11, 12 Celsius for nighttime lows in the wintertime. But yeah, there we go. Another thing I do for watering these guys is once they're like this and there's a bit of moss growing, it's pretty easy because they don't really move. But I do use the tray method for watering. And what I do is I let the trays basically dry out before I re-water. And then I just put in, you can almost see the water lines on the pots there. It's about a centimeter, 3/4 of a centimeter of water. And I try to let them soak it up from the bottom. And I do that with the seedlings as well. My seedlings, they grow exactly, they germinate right with my plants. So these guys started germinating last winter on the cool side of the greenhouse with my other Cephalotus in the middle of December with no problems at all. I don't do anything special for the way they grow or anything like that. They literally sit with my other Cephalotus. So there's nearly 10 minutes of rambling on how I germinate Cephalotus. I hope you like this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And yeah, I do have a few of these guys still on eBay if you want to pick them up, selling them worldwide. So check out my eBay store. The link is in the description below the video, I guess, and it will link you over to eBay there, and you can pick some up. Everything I have for sale is basically fresh. I still have flower stalks out that I have to harvest above us, but most of them are almost getting finished. I just finished harvesting them in the middle of August here, and yeah, they're all looking really good. They're really promising. Nice fresh seeds anyways. So I will see you next time. Bye guys.